Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Guam Congress Building in Agatna. Thank you for being here. My name is Senator Dwayne Nicolas. The Committee on Emergency Response, Border Safety, Military and Veterans Affairs, and Mayor's Council of Guam is now called to order. The time is 14:03 for you military guys, and 2:03 p.m. In compliance with the open government law, notices for this public hearing were published in the Guam Daily Post and the Government of Guam Public Notice Portal on Friday, September 22nd, 2023, and Wednesday, September 27, 2023. Notices were also by email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets. And this hearing is being live streamed on Guam's legislature's YouTube channel. I'd like to acknowledge my dear colleagues who have joined me here today. We have the ever lovely tough Tello Taitagui here. Over here we have Fighting Frank Blas, Senator Fighting Frank, and the very young and energetic Senator Roy Kinata. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And also in the crowd, I'd like to acknowledge our former senators, Senator Fernando Esteves and Senator Carlotta Leon Guerrero. Today's committee is holding a public hearing for two discussions. We will begin with the first one, which is a confirmation hearing of Dr. Michael W. Cruz for the position of Adjutant General, Director, Guam National Guard, and the Department of Military Affairs. If anyone has signed in and at the entrance, please join us at the panel if you plan on testifying. I'd also like to acknowledge my colleague who just arrived, Senator Joanne Brown. I would like to begin with stating the rules of the public hearing. During testimony, be respectful and courteous to others. Personal interference to testimonies of senators is not permitted. Failure to abide by the general rules of conduct will be removed from the public hearing room. In addition, a general reminder to please ensure the microphone is on and prior to speaking. Also, speak into the microphone, stating your name and title for the panel prior to beginning. We will begin with bringing up our first panel. Members, Mr. Cameron, Joseph Cameron, Dr. Mike, you're going to come up here as well. Yeah, and Carlotta Leon Guerrero, Mr. Fernando, Senator Esteves, please come up. Sir, go ahead for the record. You want to do an introduction and where are you from?
What village
and state your name, yeah. What village?
Agate rules.
Okay, that's it, everybody. We're done. Testimony's done. He's confirmed. Let's wrap it up.
Well, you know, this is an agate thing, so we saw it.
Well, go ahead, sir. You want to go ahead and give us an introduction? Go ahead. You first.
Yeah, well, good afternoon, Chairman Sir Nicolas and the members of the 36th Guam Legislature. And I certainly thank you for this opportunity. I consider this an honor and a privilege to be able to, I think, to state what I think is why I'm uniquely qualified to sit in the position of the Adjutant General for Guam. Given this current geopolitical environment that we live here in our region. And so I think all of you guys certainly know me and some of my history, but maybe what you don't know is a little bit about my military history. And so I can go ahead and explain that. I think you all know that I'm a physician, continue to be a surgeon, former senator. So there actually is 6 Republican senators in here, right? So that's right. And former Lieutenant Governor of Guam. But in addition, I'm also obviously a physician. I have an MBA in healthcare administration. I joined the U.S. Army as a captain in 1987, and I've had multiple positions within the U.S. military, or certainly in the Army itself. I'm a combat veteran both in Iraq and Afghanistan, and also recently, with my history, just recently was the President and Chief Executive Officer for the Guam Regional Medical City, the Joint Commission accredited hospital here in Guam, besides Navy, and also the Chief Medical Officer at GMH. And so I thank you again for this opportunity, and I'm here to answer any questions if you have.
All right, thank you, sir. We'll go ahead and hear from the rest of the panel. You can start, we'll go ahead with you, ma'am. Senator Carlotta, please, thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator.
Well, can I just do this real quick, because it's the most important two people here in the room right here is my wife, Jennifer, and my daughter, Taylor. And so she, when she was first born, the first place she went was to Adelup, to the Lieutenant Governor's office. So this is now the only other time she's been in a government environment. So thank you for coming.
All right, thank you, sir, and welcome. Go ahead, madam.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and it's an honor to be here, especially to be speaking on behalf of Senator, Dr., Lieutenant Governor General Mike Cruz. I was his chief of staff for 6 years when he was a senator and when he was a lieutenant governor. And in 1995, he and I formed the Adjutant Foundation, and we're now in our 28th year of responding locally as well as regionally to disasters. I think that he is uniquely qualified to be in the position that he is before you here for confirmation. One of the things I would touch on a little bit, and maybe Senator Tello and Senator Frank might remember this, but when he was a lieutenant governor, he was instrumental in forming the Civilian Military Task Force. And that had a lot to do with preparing the island of Guam for the coming military buildup. And also during that time as lieutenant governor, we participated in something that I think Senator Frank Blas organized, which was a top-up for training exercise. And it was a National Guard and Homeland Security event that was very, very important to us and helped us get ready and train and know where the weaknesses were in our ability to respond to weapons of mass destruction. And I think that with everything that he's got, being able to prepare soldiers for what soldiers are needed for, as well as responding to regional disasters and helping out in the community, he's uniquely qualified. And I stand in full support and encourage you to vote favorably for General Cruz. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Mr. Cameron, go ahead, sir.
Hafade senador siya man gai gwini confort mi udzo na gosmalik na kabazero gimenata za u susunina no todos ini mane ekngok za mane ikagi TV land gi za Guam na pareho asinentinia. I am Joseph Artero Cameron, Hafade Mr. Chairman and all senators present, here today for Dr. Michael Cruz's confirmation hearing and appointment to the position of Adjutant General. Years ago, Dr. Michael Cruz was the medical director for Guam Memorial Hospital. My mom, Maria Artero Cameron, was his administrative assistant. And my mom had often referred to him as her son. So it goes to say, if my mom says he is her son, I am clearly his brother. I moved here to Guam in 1986 of November, and shortly thereafter, I was appointed by then Governor Joseph Ada to be the Director of Mental Health and Substance Abuse. Actually, back in those days, there were 3 Dr. Cruzes whom I regularly looked up to for sage advices. In no necessary order, Dr. Michael Cruz, Dr. Eduardo Cruz, and Dr. Olivia Cruz. They were called the 3 Cruzes. These doctors were inseparable, both in friendships and as medical colleagues, to say the least. I have known Mike as a medical doctor, a surgeon, medical director, senator, and lieutenant governor of Guam. Throughout his diverse and decorated career, I had and continue to admire this gentleman. There's a Chamorro word that says menhalum, to refer as wisdom or wise. Mike has embodied the very meaning of this word and much more. Our nation is in the midst of much uncertainties given the unsettling concerns we face in this region with China, also Russia and North Korea. Leadership exacts a heavy toll on a person. Mike has accepted responsible leadership throughout his entire career. Mike is a family man. This has come to be his crowning achievement in his lifetime. Please, my honorable senators, give him your full support for his confirmation. Chair Mike, I and Mom are very proud of you and place the greatest esteem in your willingness to serve Guam and our great nation. Sizus Masi.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron, for that wonderful testimony. Senator, go ahead. Fernando Esteves.
Buenas and half a day. Just would like to state as a matter of record, I'm here as a private citizen. I do have my leave form, and that's available, foilable, or just ask me for it, and I'll provide a copy to anybody, to the public. Buenas and half a day, honorable members of Imena 37 na legislatura in Guahan. My name is Fernando Barcinas Esteves, and I am testifying before you as a former member of this esteemed body and as a private citizen in support of the confirmation of Brigadier General Michael W. Cruz as the Adjutant General of the Guam National Guard. I have no doubt that there are many people who can testify to the numerous accolades held by General Cruz. There are those who will testify to his accomplishments as a medical doctor, his sacrifices as Segundo Megalahin Guahan, and his dedicated service in the Army. However, I am not one of those individuals. My support is for the leader and patriot behind the many accomplishments and titles. My respect and admiration for General Cruz is solidified in his leadership qualities that I aspire to: wise, measured, and empathetic. Wisdom, his ability to think and act utilizing knowledge, experience, understanding, insight, and common sense. Measured, his ability to think and act carefully, controlled, and deliberate. Empathetic, his general concern for people in his thoughts and actions. These textbook leadership traits are only truly gained and made effective with time. General Cruz is a leader who values those around him. He respects competency over status, ability over stature, and commits to fairness as much as he would demand it. Solution-driven with a common-sense mindset. Our bond began through our kinship as deployed medical personnel in Middle Eastern conflicts. Although we didn't serve in the same unit, there are bonds sustained through shared and lived experiences. As a combat medic, I've served 3 combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. Our experiences, hands bloodied, working to save the lives of comrades, enemies, and innocent civilians under our care. We see the conflict and war with the special lens. Our experiences as Chamorro boys from the South, keen to our colonial history and war-torn past, patriot holds a different meaning to us. There's more that I could say, but I'm sure that General Cruz mentally is asking me to wrap it up. So I will close with this. I respectfully ask this esteemed body to confirm the appointment of this Southern Chamorro boy, grown wise, measured, and empathetic, with a deep understanding of conflict and war, to be the Adjutant General of the Guam National Guard, so he may continue to share our history, held deep in his heart, and to continue to advocate for our island and its people at every opportunity. Sizus Masi. And if I may, Senator, while I'm here and in the effort of efficiency, I also am in support of Bill 170-37. Most don't know, but my namesake is Fernando Barcinas Esteves, who was one of those who paid the ultimate sacrifice in Vietnam. And so I just want to add that to the record. Thank you, Sizus Masi.
Thank you, Senator, for your testimony. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of former Senator Francis Santos. With that, we can go ahead and take some questions from my dear senators here, my colleagues. We'll start with. Oh, okay, you're confirmed. Anybody there have any questions for the panel? Yeah? Not for the panel? Okay, the panel is excused. Sir, you could just stay there. All right, I'm going to go ahead. Senator Francis Santos, would you like to come up here, sir, and testify? Oh, okay, and we'll go ahead and take Sheila Concepcion. Yes, ma'am. And Dr. Nguyen, sir, please come up. Dr. Thomas Shea, sir. Miss Angel Gogui. And still have room there. And Jose and Augustine, or this is for this is the next one. All right, then we'll go ahead and start. I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues, my dear colleagues, Senator Sabina Paris and Vice Speaker Tina Muna Barnes for joining us. So we'll go ahead and we'll start with you, madam. Thank you. Go ahead and please state your name, and you may continue.
Hafaday and good afternoon. Senator Nicolas and members of the 37th Guam Legislature. I am Colonel Sheila Compton-Revo, the Chief of Joint Staff of the Guam National Guard. I appear before you to present my testimony in support of Brigadier General Michael Doc Cruz for the consideration of his appointment to the Adjutant General of the Guam National Guard. I have been a member of the Guam National Guard since March 2002. As a new direct commissioned second lieutenant with no prior military service or experience, I was assigned to work under the leadership of then Lieutenant Colonel Michael Cruz at the State Medical Command. He has been a constant guide and remains steadfast in providing me sound advice and support in my military career of 21 years. He is a seasoned leader who has served at every level of leadership, an excellent mentor, a trusted advisor, and more importantly, a sincere friend. Over the past 21 years, I have had the opportunity to serve under several adjutants general. All were unique in their own way, with very distinct leadership styles. General Cruz's uniqueness comes from his extensive background and experience, locally, federally, and globally. His understanding of the geopolitical ramifications, coupled with his deeply rooted passion for his island, our homeland. General Cruz brings a wealth of knowledge and broad perspectives from various facets of his life. As a former lieutenant governor who served the people of Guam from January 2007 to January 2011, a former senator in the 28th Guam legislature, having served as the chairman of the Health and Human Services Committee, a hospital president and chief executive officer, a medical director, the founder of a nonprofit organization, a surgeon, a military officer, a father, a husband, and a compassionate gentleman. His view of the world is seen through a multitude of lenses. This extraordinarily complex view provides him the necessary fortitude to strategically lead the Guam National Guard in the defense of Guam and the Marianas, utilizing a holistic community approach. As a decorated Army combat veteran with multiple deployments to Iraq in support of Operation Desert Shield, Operation Desert Storm, and Operation Iraqi Freedom, he also deployed to Afghanistan in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. Coupled with the firsthand knowledge of his family's history of suffering during the atrocities of World War II, General Cruz truly understands and continues to educate all of us on the importance of protecting our homeland and defending our freedom. As a testament to his compassion for humanity, General Cruz was among 11 doctors, 8 nurses, and several support staff, me included, who volunteered from Guam to join the medical mission in the Philippines to help victims of Super Typhoon Yolanda, which ravaged Tacloban City in November 2013. In 3 days, the team served almost 3,000 patients in areas where access to health care was extremely limited. General Cruz's belief and desire to proactively build strong relationships among all our military partners in the Indo-Pacific region enhances our ability to respond effectively to the existential threat to our people and our island, which is looming in our neighborhood within the first and second island chains. Since March 1st, 2003, when General Cruz assumed the position of the Adjutant General of the Guam National Guard, I have experienced firsthand the positive synergy among the troops, both Army and Air, and the outstanding collaboration between the leaders of the Guam National Guard and the leaders of all sister services on Guam. The organization needs a leader with the caliber and intellectual capacity of General Cruz. He is extremely astute, a dynamic thinker, and a charismatic speaker with a strategic vision. He will lead the Guam National Guard into the future with the possibility of facing our adversaries head-on. He empowers leaders to lead and encourages creative thinking. He is an inspiration to many of us. Mr. Chairman and members of this committee, I am proud to support the appointment of Brigadier General Michael Cruz to the position of the Adjutant General of the Guam National Guard. I am confident that if confirmed, General Cruz's service as the Adjutant General is crucial to the region, the Marianas, and the island of Guam. Thank you for the opportunity to present my testimony.
Thank you, madam. Ma'am, you may proceed. Go ahead and state your name and proceed. Thank you.
Hafa and one is in Hafa. My name is Angel Vibar, and I am going to read this letter of support on behalf of Ms. Kathy C. Gogui. As the Administrative Director of the Guam Public Defender Service Corporation, the current public board member of the Guam's professional engineers, architects, and land surveyors, and the incoming state chair for the Guam CNMI Committee of the Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve, ESGR, it gives me great pleasure to write this letter of support for Brigadier General Michael W. Cruz as the Adjutant General of the Guam National Guard. Since ESGR's committee's existence in 1997, our relationship with the Guam National Guard has grown exponentially for the reserve component service members we serve on Guam and in the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. Knowing General Cruz personally and having worked with him in various organizations, Guam soldiers and airmen can expect nothing but excellence under his leadership. His commitment to our community by returning home once he completed his residency is a true testament of his magnanimity to the people of our territory. His assuming demeanor as a lieutenant governor, senator, physician, and a lifelong learner, also earning an MBA and executive MBA, is an exemplary assurance to the strength of the reserve component. Humbled to provide this letter of support for Brigadier General Cruz, I look forward to working with him in the very near future. Signed, Kathy C. Gogui, Administrative Director, Guam Public Defender Service Corporation, and State Chair for the Guam CNMI Committee, Employer Support of the Guard and Reserve. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, ma'am, for your testimony. Dr. Wen, go ahead, sir.
Thank you so much, and thank you for giving me the time to testify, to give testimony for in regard for Dr. Mike Cruz. I'm speaking today as a veteran. I have 23 years in the Air Force and retired 7 years ago. But I have a chance to serve with Dr. Cruz and for many years. I think through several TAC in the past. But you know, we get deployed to multiple medical missions, as mentioned before, to the Philippines. And through his leadership, you know, we see thousands of patients over there and very successful mission. I served in the past as a state surgeon for the Air National Guard and the Army Guard before I retire. And no, when you go to the bureau to see the state surgeon and the TAC for meeting, it's so important that we have a highly qualified person to represent the Guard in Guam, both Air and Army Guard. And I cannot even imagine anyone more qualified than Dr. Mike Cruz. So I'm just really highly recommend Dr. Mike Cruz for the position of TAC, and there's no hesitation at all. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Wen. Senator?
Thank you very much to my colleagues up there on that esteemed panel. After yesterday's public hearing, Mike and I spoke. I said, I'm not sure you want to go down there right now. But that being said, you know, when I got the phone call to say, hey, can you please come down and support Dr. Mike, I said, Dr. Mike needs support? I don't think so. I mean, I'm sitting next to a man that has worn and, you know, still continues to wear so many different hats. It's unbelievable what Mike has done in the little world that I've been with him. I can speak, I think my best example of Mike's leadership was at the onset of COVID. Okay, I was called by a good friend saying, can you please come and help us because we're trying to put together this plan. So I attended a meeting and I said, okay, that's fine. The next day I looked at Mike and I said, you need to come with me and sit down with all these government officials. Mind you, I'm not a government official. I'm just sitting there and I said, they need someone to guide them because it looks too scattered for me. And lo and behold, here we are sitting down. Mike walks in, and the table immediately, they all stand up. I said, okay, that's a good sign for me that we're going to finally respect what we did. But moving forward, as the COVID battle continued, on the very first day that we launched the vaccines, okay, it was down at Ukudu High School. And from our vantage point at GRMC, that line of cars stretched all the way to GRMC. I called Dr. Mike and I said, Mike, we have a huge problem. And he says, what's going on? I said, I'm looking at the cars that are lined up for the Manumco to go get vaccines. I said, something's not right here. And he says, okay. So he comes back, like within 10 minutes, he calls back and he says, Francis, you and Alan Fontanilla, then our CEO, he's the CEO, he's assigned to ADLU. And he goes, open a vaccination clinic, and I want it done in 2 hours. And I said, Mike, you're out of your mind. I said, we can't mobilize that quick. It's almost next to impossible. He goes, no, Francis, get it done. And I said, okay, we'll figure this out. And sure enough, Mike had already in his mind laid out a plan. And within minutes, he's calling back. I said, I made the phone calls already. They're waiting for you to go get the vaccines up at Okudu High School. And then I said, and he says, I also spoke to Alan on the logistics of how to put a vaccination clinic in the lobby of GRMC. So that's Mike's vision, Mike's leadership, Mike's tenacity to say when something needs to get done to help our people, find a way to get it done. Okay? I sit here, and really in my eyes, Mike is my political foe, okay? This man and I ran against each other. And God being God's truth, we were at one debate, sitting there looking at each other, and we said, what in God's name, Francis, are we doing here? Okay. Many moons ago, Mike, and we're still here together. I want to thank him for recommending me to join his team at GRMC. We are the proud Chamorros that can say we have helped plan, helped build, helped open, helped operate, and helped get accredited a private hospital in Guam. That's Mike Cruz. Okay, no one else can say that. We all stand here, and again, when he shaped the COVID team that we know as the Physician Advisory Group, that was Mike. We sat down, we went through the list of all the physicians that we need, that we know are going to help us. And believe me, like herding cats with these doctors, it was a difficult task. I said, Mike, so-and-so is going to be offended. Mike, so-and-so, and he goes, we just need to get this done, Francis. Again, that's Mike's leadership skills in saying, we have a job before us, and I don't know if it's his military training, guys. He just has this saying, we're going to get it done. And I've learned to work with Mike and that kind of leadership style and visionary thinking that we all need today, we continue to work together despite not being around each other. We've met fantastic people along the way in this journey for healthcare and what we're trying to do. And hopefully the other vision that Mike and I are sharing can come because it's something that's going to be bigger than both of us throughout our lives, and we want to do that. But I'm asking you here, this guy has it all, okay? He can do what's going to be done. I'm proud that he took the appointment from the governor, even though she's a Democrat appointing a Republican. And I said, no, this is the one that we got to do. And I'm asking for your support. There's enough of us up there, Republicans and Democrats alike, that can say, Mike is our man. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, for your testimony. It goes to show what happens when we put good people in office. Dr. Shea, go ahead, sir. Thank you.
Chairman St. Nicolas, thank you. Dr. Berg messaged me. He's right in the back. He said if he could get permission to come up here as well, because he has a patient that he has to insert.
Yes, yeah, go ahead. I'll acknowledge Dr. Berg. Please come up. Thank you.
Thank you. Member of the legislature, buenas and half a day. I've been a friend of Mike since I set foot on Guam as a naval medical officer. I didn't know what I was doing back then. And 27 years later, I'm still here, and I'm still fielding phone calls from this gentleman right here, even though he's in the Army and I'm in the Navy. So that goes to tell you that we've been friends for a long, long time. And it's hard to be my friend. You know, I can rub people the wrong way. And so I consider Mike as a good friend. And if anybody who can ask me to compromise on an issue, it would be Mike Cruz. He would call me sometimes in the middle of the night and say, Tom, what's going on? And can we compromise, you know? So I think those things that is a unique to a leader who can reach out across the aisle and discuss certain issues. Mike, as we know, is a surgeon. He's a war veteran. And many of us served medical missions with Mike. He led the way to not just the Philippines, but also in Guam. But no one can tell you that we share the same bed in a medical mission. And that tells you something, you know. We share not just the same bed, but the same thought process on how we're going to take care of so many patients the next day. So it's important to realize that Mike is not just, a family member, a responsible family member, but he's also a very articulate and very structured in the way he plans things out. I think today is long overdue to appoint someone like Dr. Cruz. I think the legislature trusted in him. He was a lieutenant governor as well. The people trust him. He served in the best interest of the people, and he represents the country well. Now, when Mike was lieutenant governor, and he actually ensured accreditation of the Guam Memorial Hospital. You know, if I was the governor now, I'll probably say, hey, Mike, I'm going to tap you over there as the acting CEO and erect that ship, and let's get back on track. But be it as it may, I don't think that today is the time for that. But it doesn't mean he can't serve other multiple roles, and that's just Mike. He's a multitasker, and he deserves to be recognized as the future tag of Guam. So I would wholeheartedly support him without reservations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shea. Dr. Burke, go ahead, please.
Chairman St. Nicolas, thank you for allowing me to skip line, if you will, and your esteemed colleagues. So when I saw that Mike was coming here today to have testimony regarding his appointment, I thought, what can I say that's not going to be said? And so much has been said about Mike that I want to tell just a few little different things that help me think that there's no reason that he is not the best choice, and there's every reason to think he is the best choice. And I think some of the anecdotes and things that I've learned with Mike over the years. I met Mike Cruz, I've been here about 30 years now, just shy of 30 years, and I met Mike Cruz 4 days after I got here, and we're still friends. And one might ask why, and part of it, I think, has to do with our approach to healthcare, and part of what Mike does for the island and for veterans and active duty members who serve under him. It's hard for people to see that if they're not in clinic or serving with him otherwise. So you see a very accomplished man, but when we've worked thousands of cases together, surgeons and those of us who work in breast imaging, work extremely closely together. And I always knew that it didn't matter what that person's ability to pay for their services. He would show up anyway. His commitment, even though he wears so many different hats, his commitment to each of them is extraordinary. And one time and I didn't support him running for lieutenant governor because I wanted him to stay as surgeon. Now I'm glad he did, but I called down because I had a patient who needed something urgently done. It was about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I called down, I spoke to his assistant, and I said, "Hi, it's Dr. Berg, I need to speak with Dr. Cruz." And she said, "Actually, that's acting Governor Cruz." I said, "Right, I need to speak with Dr. Cruz." And she said, "You can't, he's in a cabinet meeting." And I said, "Actually, he's not." And she said, "I'm sorry?" I said, "He's not." She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "He's on his way to come to talk to me about a patient." "Oh." I said, "Just go and whisper in his ear. Dr. Berg said it's very important. I need to talk about a patient." He came out of the meeting and said, "What's up?" And I said, "I've got a patient. You need to come down as soon as you're done there. I'll keep her here. I'll be there." Hangs up the phone. And I knew all I needed to do was get that message to him. And his commitment to patients were just as important as his commitment as lieutenant governor. He didn't somehow switch and then not be able to continue to serve every single patient who came to his office and needed his care. That's what he's done. So that's an important thing to think about. When he takes on this role, he's not going to give up his service in every other role, whether it's in the Adjutant Foundation or even in the care that he provides to his patients. And his service in combat is so important for people to understand when they sign up to serve under him. One time when I was getting an assignment that was a rather dreadful assignment, I must say I was in the United States Army also and left as a major after serving here for 4 years. My first 4 years here, I was an active duty member of the United States Army. And the person said, so I'll never forget, he said, "I'm giving you an assignment that will entail you're seeing things that you wish you had lived and died and never saw." He's done that and volunteered to go back in multiple times. So that if my son or daughter serves under him, I trust that he will not see putting someone in harm's way lightly. I trust that he will want that person to be as trained, as competent as they can possibly be before they're sent out to defend the people of Guam and the people of the United States of America. That's an incredibly important thing, that people trust our own sons and daughters to him, and I would. And I was going to add to that in that capacity, I've seen something, and this is not disrespectful, in fact, to General Paulino and others who served before Mike. I've seen his commitment to making sure that people know he is the Adjutant General of Guam, that he makes sure when they talk about threats to the island of Guam, that he reminds them that it's threats to the people of Guam. Yes, the island matters, but it's the people of Guam. And he reminds them over and over that the people of Guam are who are at risk. And so I see him as not simply now being one of the 54 adjutant generals and representatives to the military from the civilian side, but I see him as someone who is looking after the well-being of Chamorros and those of us who call Guam home as much as anybody could. And in a way, it's a bit, I admire his tenacity in constantly reminding those who may have several more of those stars on their shoulders that he serves the people of Guam as much as he serves our country. So that's what I wanted to add to all the other things that you're going to hear about his qualifications, which are unquestionable. So just as a human being, who he is. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Berg.
Yeah, Senator, I forgot to bring up one point. That one person that's not here is Dr. Christopher Perez. And Dr. Perez, Michael goes way back. And if he was here today, he would be here to support his confirmation.
Thank you, Dr. Shea. Anybody have any questions here? None? All right, panel, do dismissed. Thank you very much, docs, for everything that you guys do for the island. Yes, ma'am. We have one more member from the public, Ms. Faye Santos. Anybody? And I'd like to acknowledge the presence of former Senator Espaldon. Sir, would you like to give testimony? Okay, just stay there then. Well, if that's it, we'll just go ahead and I'll allow Senator Tello, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I've known Mike actually since I was, 16 or 15 years old, when he and a friend of his actually taught me how to surf. A lot of people didn't know that, but he was so willing to, help someone who was eager to learn. And I knew back then that this was a really nice guy. And of course, I didn't see him for many years later. You used to have hair down to here, right? You used to have your hair way down here, right? And now you're sitting here, and all that you've done for the island, and not just that, but you're really setting a path for the future too, as well, by helping other people, learn how to help other people, and I've served also under you when you were the Lieutenant Governor, and I found that your door was always open for me when I had any concerns or anything. So that makes me to believe that the good service men and women of the National Guard will not have an issue having to knock on your door and seeking any kind of guidance or even have any complaints and concerns. So I feel really confident in that. But of course, I could sit here and glorify you like everyone else has done, but you know me, I'm going to have to ask you a tough question. So what do you see will be among the challenges you'll have to tackle coming into this position, especially with respect to the missile defense strategies, Guam's growing role in the nation's defense, and how can you best navigate our community with these challenging times?
Senator, thank you for that question. It's very clear in my mind that Guam's existence hangs in the balance. As you heard me say before, on one of our uniforms, our OCP, our camouflage uniform, we wear two flags. On the right-hand side, we have the American flag. And unique to Guam is we actually wear the Guam seal on our left. I'm absolutely firmly committed and believe that those two flags' interests and needs and futures have to be the same. The needs of the interests of our people, our environment, our oceans, our customs, our traditions have to be balanced with the needs of the nation itself. Guam can't just be part of the national defense strategy. It needs to be part of the national strategic strategy. Defense is only a part of the strategic strategy. Our people 79 years ago suffered through the tragedies, the atrocities, the rapes, the murders of the last great Pacific War. My grandmother had to watch as her oldest son and oldest brother were beheaded in front of her on the beaches of Agate. That is not lost on me, that this next possible great Pacific War has our existence in the balance. And so it's important that our nation knows that a projection of power from Guam is necessarily going to make us a target. And so as such, we need to make sure that our existence as a people will continue beyond that. And I think that that's the job that I have to bring to this. This is the job, this is what I say on a daily basis at the highest levels of the Department of Defense when I get an opportunity to. There has to be a picture of who we are as part of that. To me, that's the biggest challenge. Okay, and that we're not going to be we're not going to be a place to just project power from. But the other thing is that we need to figure out our current relationship with the federal government. I'll give you sort of to what I think is an irony, for example. When you read about Guam's position, right, we've lived under this, what is described as this tyranny of distance from CONUS, right, the United States continental continent. Well, now there seems to be at least a luxury of proximity, a luxury to the fact that we have close to Asia itself. Well, that luxury cannot just be one of a military value. It should be one of an economic value, social value, cultural value, health, and the like. And so, I think I lost my thought, but these are important for us. And so, as we project power from Guam, they're saying that we need to ensure the freedom of navigation and to ensure that international trade within the South China Sea and the Western Pacific will continue for all the economies that live here. Well, we're going to project that part to allow the freedom of navigation, but yet our people are burdened by a Jones Act. Those are the type of things that we have to work with. And we need to find our relationship within our nation if this is what we so choose to have it be, but not, we have to have the same voice. We have to have a say in our future. And so to me, that's the big challenge. But as you know, I have 3 priorities as a Guard. Number 1 is defense of the Guam and the Marianas. Number 2 is to fix ourselves. And number 3 is recruiting and retention. And so those are the priorities, and those are also the challenges.
Well, is that enough for everyone here? He's got everyone's support? I was very clear, precise. You know, the past, the present, and the future. And I think that you hold all those traits for this island to be great. So I thank you so much for taking on this position, and I wish you very much the greatest of luck to you, and always know that my door is always open if I could be of any assistance to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. We'll go ahead with Vice Speaker Tina Munoz-Barnes. Ma'am, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak and probably ask just a couple of questions to the appointee. First of all, I want to I see some of my family members out there, some of my husband's Guard, Air Force airmen out there. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for Adjutant General Mike Cruz's confirmation. I just want to say, Adjutant General Mike Cruz, my mom's favorite. I really want to say that your work as a soldier, as a war veteran, doctor, senator, and lieutenant governor make you more than qualified to lead the Guam National Guard. Especially given today's testimony, I want to say up front that you have my full support for your appointment. And I want to tell you, Mr. Chair, that I will be voting to confirm Adjutant General Mike Cruz for this position. I also must say for the record that his wife is family, and just to note it for the record, that we may not see each other a lot of times. Every time we meet and at gatherings or at functions, we always seem to catch up. So I just want to say thank you to the family. Thank you for the support that you give to your dad. It's really, really important. I also want to say that in light of yesterday's oversight hearing into the hospital, I personally want to ask you a question, and I would like to ask whether you believe, if activated by the governor, that the Guam Guard is able to assist GMH with its ongoing situation, which I think we all should be calling a crisis. And let me preface that. Adjutant General, I want to say that we all remember the huge help the Guard provided during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. You remember that? We would not have tested, treated, and vaccinated as many of our residents if it weren't for the dedicated soldiers and airmen who manned health facilities, including the Guam Memorial Hospital. And more recently, I want to say that the Guard has helped our families pick up their lives and recover from the damage caused by just the recent Typhoon Mawar. So, Adjutant General, what kind of aid do you believe the Guard can provide GMH to help them out of this crisis, and would you recommend your troops be activated in order to begin this critical mission if tasked? I know it's a loaded question, but I know it's really loaded, but I'm just sincerely from the heart, if afforded that opportunity to help.
Wow. Well, I think it's obvious that there's no more complex a sector or a space than hospitals, because it deals in life and death. And to the extent that the Guam Guard can be helpful, obviously we can. But there's no one person that's going to be able to fix a hospital that is broken. And I think it's going to take leadership to bring that together. And to the extent that we can, I think that what the Guam Guard brings, other than the fact that we do have medics and stuff, is we have very capable leaders, to include myself. And if the governor, who is the commander-in-chief of the Guam National Guard, deems it that I or whoever needs to go and assist the hospital in some way, I would certainly be the first in line.
Thank you so very much for your answer and your sincerity in this efforts, and knowing that you literally been there in the past and at a second's notice, and what Senator Santos was saying, what Dr. Berg was saying, what Dr. Wynn was saying, Dr. Shea was saying, was the need of leadership and literally doing the work when tasked and asked, even on a second's notice. So I really appreciate your comments. I do have one more question, Mr. Chair.
But if I could just add this, though, I think that leadership can certainly do all it can, but we need to have the political will to make the changes that need to take place.
Thank you. Thank you for that. One more question, Mr. Chair. With Homeland Security officials noting persistent advanced cyber attacks directed at our island, can you provide the public with some of the efforts the Guam Guard is leading and involved with that are helping to improve how the government and critical infrastructure partners respond and prevent hacks, data smuggling, and other cyber threats?
As you know, and I think that Senator Taylor-Tidegway knows as well, we held the first government sort of island-wide cybersecurity conference, and we're going to continue to move forward on that with additional ones that are coming up. I just completed a general officer and flag officer course in Homeland Security at the Harvard Kennedy School. I think that there's a lot of things about our existence, our culture, our resilience over war, multiple typhoons, that prepares us for some of those complexities. We're just going to need to ensure to get the additional resources and expertise that can be given to us by our nation to ensure that our cybersecurity is in a good place to be able to ensure that our livelihoods and our future will be stable.
Thank you very much, Adjutant. I just want to say again for the record, Mr. Chair, that this fine young man literally has my support, and I hope Mr. Chair, that you can expedite his package immediately and that he would be on board with us at the next session schedule. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity, Mr. Chair, to speak, but I want to thank you for stepping up to the plate again and again and again to help our people of Guam, more importantly, to protect our freedoms that we live today. So, undangkulan si Diyos masi, si Diyos ang binidisi, ahagumas do I familyan mo. Undangkulan si Diyos masi for all the work and the family here to support you. It's truly a blessing to have you on board with us. Sainamasi.
Thank you, Madam Vice Speaker, and done. Senator Roy, please, sir.
Mr. Chair, first I want to thank you all for coming out today and for your service, most especially to you. You have been a tried and tested leader. You have a distinguished statesman record. As a son of Guam, you've always put your best foot forward and engaged challenges head on. With all the supporting testimony, I'm not too sure if there's anything else to further discuss. I can honestly attest to your leadership because I did campaign for you when I was, I think, 10 in 2006. So if anyone wants to know where my political strategy came from, it came from Republicans. But, you know, with that being said, you know, you've always served with integrity and character, and because you you've shown pretty much everyone that not everything needs to be looked through political glasses. You are tried and tested and true to all you do, and you've been a private practitioner and also in the public service forever since you've been in office. And ever since you've graduated, you've always stood by the people, and I have no hesitation in supporting you further. I believe in you when I was 10, and I believe in you today and forever. So if there's anything in my office or in any capacity I can do, please let me know. It's good to see Tay. Now she's a Academy Cougar. But for the record, I am related, Mr. Chair, to the nominee and also his wife. So just putting that out there. But I wish you all the best, and my office is standing ready to support you in any way.
Thank you, Senator Kanata. Senator Frank Blas, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. General, I'm going to share a little secret, okay? Yesterday, the general called and he goes, my confirmation hearing, you're coming? I said, for what? And he goes, come on, you got to be there. And what do you need to do? And I said, really? You're going to ask me what you need to do? As far as I'm concerned, I think after the first 10 minutes, General, your confirmation hearing was done. Okay? So I want to give this opportunity, though, to be able to, you know, one of the things I told him, he goes, what do you think I should do? And I said, name, rank, serial number, and the background green. Thank you guys for being here. It's not the green we want, but the hair kind of shows where you're coming from. Okay? You know, I full disclosure, I've known the general for a great number of years. You know, like Jim said, between the three of us, we can form a triangle of stories that, after we tell the stories, I don't know whether you want to confirm him or even want to be known as his friend. But it's all in good jest, because, you know, everything that was said about you, General, is not only true, but it's magnified by 10. I don't think there is enough time in the day today to be able to speak of your accomplishments and the things that you've done for our people and why you're so deserving of this. You know, General, you're here to ask us for our vote for your confirmation as the Adjutant General. And by the way, do you know what Director of the Department of Military Affairs does for its job, or we're just going to go ahead and take care of that as it comes along? Because you have that ability to do that.
That's why we have good staff to be able to help me do that.
And
So I have a great quartermaster, and so she'll direct my.
And that's always been you, and that's what I appreciate. You know, you're not afraid to surround yourself by learned people, by subject matter experts. and want to learn more. The first time I remember met Dr. Mike Cruz at that time, actually, was there was as a Homeland Security Advisor, I was giving a SARS briefing at the Westin Hotel. You know, at that time, SARS was something that we really needed to take care of. And sitting in the front row of the many other first responders and individuals who were there was this individual that was introduced to me as Dr. Michael Cruz. I've seen him before because his family lives across the street from my family in Upper Heights. But the thing was, I was like, what does a doctor who knows what I'm going to be talking about want to sit here and listen? And it's because, true to his form, he wanted to learn more. He wanted to be engaged more. Okay? He wanted to cross his T's and dot his I's. And he wanted to contribute to the safety of our island. I never told you about that, but I respected you very much about that. Then there's another thing that, you know, that hasn't been talked about. We talk about his accolades and his professionalism and everything. But Tate, you're gonna appreciate this, sweetheart. I met your father one day at Happy Mart in camouflage. All right? He had just finished a full day of playing soldier and being a medic. But you know what was on his mind at that time when he was in Happy Mart? He had to get the ingredients because he needed to make the curry dinner that he promised you. So I know your favorite dinner is curry. But he took the time to be able to do this. And, you know, it's not like he wanted... I knew he had to go home, and after being a colonel, after being a CEO, after being a medic, after being a supervisor, after being everything that he was asked to have been in the previous 8 hours, he needed to go home to be a father. And that's what makes this man complete. We can sit here, and this could be a confirmation hearing for many other agencies and many other positions that exist within this government. And General, you'll fit the T to all of them. Not because you have the knowledge of being able to run it, but because you have the ability and the will and the capacity to surround yourself and to learn that. That's why I'm confident in this. And so I stand proud. I sit here proud saying, you got my vote. Not because I love you, but you got my vote anyways. Okay? So thank you very much, Mr. Chair and General. Okay? Formally, thank you very much for standing up.
Yeah, well, for the record, I do cook at home. I think my wife's job is way more important to me because she has to lead nurses. And so that I make sure that when my wife and my children come home in the evening, there's dinner waiting for them.
Yeah.
Right, Tay?
Just so you know, Tate, your mom sent your dad the ingredients as to what to buy. Because I had to show him where the curry was at Happy Mart. Okay?
Thank you, Minority Leader. Thank you, sir. Senator Sabina Paris, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, General. I just think that you're definitely well qualified. You're well-rounded. You served Guam in so many different facets, and I saw you in action during the pandemic, and it was very clear to me that you have the caliber and the leadership that Guam needs. And I think your nomination to this position is timely, considering what's happening geopolitically. And so I really like your vision to ensure that Guam is not just part of the defense, but also part of at the table. I think, you know, that's where we can both agree that we both need to be at the table before any of these heavy decisions are made that impact our lives here on Guam. And so you definitely have my support. I just want to ask, you know, in the GCA, it talks about your role, and it's an advisory role, and I'm just curious to see what would be your advice to the governor in regards in your position?
It's what I've just stated earlier as well. As you may know, I held or our Guard held the first ever Guam National Guard briefing to all the other services here in Guam, that being the Navy Admiral, the Air Force General, the Marine Colonel, and the Coast Guard Captain. It was important. In fact, the Admiral told me, goes, you know, Michael, I think I need to be doing this. And I think all of us, and I told everybody in the room, and a lot of my staff are here as they made the presentation, because they're way, way, way smarter than I am, that for the next 2 or 3 years, everybody in that room, including the Air Force General and the Navy Admiral, we are all going to be defenders of Guam. Some for 2 or 3 years, some of us for the rest of our lives. But we needed to know each other. And I think that the Guam Guard, being the continuity for defense, the continuity of the future of our people, needs to be front and center in ensuring that our future is going to be there. And so to me, that's the continuous advice that I give the governor. And that I think that if we're going to be important militarily, then we need to be important in every single way. And we need to leverage that to ensure the betterment of our lives and the betterment of our people going forward.
And I know we were at a briefing held by the chair, and in that briefing there was talk about funding, how essential funding is, and recruitment, retention and recruitment. I mean, I think we're experiencing that government-wide issues of recruitment, retention, and funding. So I just, maybe if you can clarify what your role would be to advocate for Guam in regards to the National Defense Authorization Act. Do you have much of a role in that? I know you do put out budgets, right? The Guam National Guard is supposed to present a budget to the greater national entity. And so what has been your interaction at that level and to ensure that you're getting the proper funding?
I think before we actually can do that, we have to be the best storytellers of our own story. And that's part of the priorities that I've mentioned as well. There are much smarter staff members on my staff that can help us with that. But my job, because I have the white hair and I have a biography and curriculum vitae that allows me to open doors and allows us to be invited into the doors. I get the door open, and much smarter people like those that surrounded me will fill it with what's needed. But clearly, there is going to be a significant amount of appropriations as monies that are going to be spent out in the Pacific Defense Initiative. We need to make sure that that's not just about missiles and bullets and tanks and ships, but that's about how we best provide for an environment and a future for our people as well.
Yeah, speaking of that, environment, what sort of environmental initiatives you would support?
As you may know or may not know, my actual Bachelor of Science degree is in biology. I actually have beach property. What's important to me is that the reefs, the oceans around us are things that we're only borrowing from her. So we need to ensure that what we enjoy today, we're just borrowing just for a short period of time so that my children and my grandchildren are going to be able to see this for the future. We have lived in these islands for 4,000 years. We should expect that we're going to live here for the next 4,000 and beyond. And this environment has sustained us through all those centuries. And this environment needs to continue to do that going forward. And so that needs to be protected.
Yes, I agree with you. I mean, you know, we take for granted a lot of the resources that have provided for us for many generations. And so having said that, I mean, for instance, like the open detonation, right? There is changes happening nationally in regards to alternative technologies that are in existence, that are in use, and that could be used here. Yeah, what is your position on making sure that Guam doesn't get left out of these cleaner technologies that exist?
I'm sorry, I missed that. What technology?
Cleaner alternative
Oh,
technologies.
well, yeah. The thing is that any transition to renewable energy is pretty cost prohibitive. And I think that there's certainly a role at some point for us to transition to that, but not at the cost of the economy. Fossil fuels are still what we are dependent on today. And we will be dependent upon that for a period future, but there should be a transition at some point. And given the abundance of renewable energy forms that we have here around our island, that being sun, certainly wind, wave, even possible a geothermal, I think we need to be taking advantage of that. But again, it's very cost prohibitive at the front, but I think at some point we need to take advantage of that, especially now that there's an interest in our islands and there's an interest in our proximity. I think we need to leverage those luxuries, as I stated before, to ensure that these types of new technologies that are going to be helpful for a future sustainment of our environment are going to be taken advantage of.
Thank you. In regards to, so open detonation, I probably wasn't clear about that. So there are, so it's been 40 years, right, since they banned open detonation for explosives until they found alternative technology that can handle explosive weapons. And so there is information and use of these alternate technologies, including safe storage, safe transport, right? And so, I guess what is your position on ensuring that Guam doesn't get left out of access to these technologies? So instead of being exposed to toxic chemicals due to open detonation, which doesn't have any type of pollution controls, there are technologies that can help prevent such release. So for one of the problems is like, for instance, PFAS. PFAS is a forever chemical, forever compound, because it's very resistant to breaking down. And if open detonation, what that does, it releases it. It releases these compounds and disperses it more readily. And so what I'm asking is, what is your position in ensuring that these cleaner technologies, if it can be used, to ensure that we're not being left out? Because as you know, Guam has, high cancer rates. We probably have, each one of us have somebody in our family that has died from cancer or has cancer themselves, right? So I think it's really critical to really advocate when we're talking about being at the table, right? Why are we second-class citizens when it comes to these kind of protections, which are available, right? And, in this position, your position as you're opening doors for these discussions, what is your take, what is your position on this particular aspect?
Ma'am, I think it's very clear that our position has to be to ensure that those particular technologies that you're talking about, we're going to have access to. Now, I may not be that familiar with a lot of that, as you may be, but I'll tell you what, I could be as smart of that, maybe smarter, if just given the opportunity to do that. But clearly, the position is, yes, we would want to take advantage of things that are less damaging to us as a people. After all, I happen to be a physician.
Yes, and thank you. Thank you for all your service. I mean, it's pretty apparent that you're a dedicated son of Guam, servant, government servant as well. And I definitely appreciate the fact that you're not complacent, and you're a take charge. You know that things have to be done, and you have a vision. So I do look forward to having more discussions with you, and thank you for accepting the nomination.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Perez. Senator Brown, ma'am?
Hafaday, good afternoon. What a sense of accomplishment you must have today, and I know you're very humble about this sort of thing, but I think we all have to concede the credentials you bring to the table, Dr. Mike, are impressive. I think if any one of us simply picked one road, we would have been very accomplished. If it was simply being a surgeon as you are, that would have been a great accomplishment. If it was simply being an elected official, that in and of itself would have been a great accomplishment if it was simply following the road you have as a soldier that has led you to where you are today. That in and of itself, for any one of us, would be quite an accomplishment. And I think it's not often in one's life you have the opportunity to actually hear what other people think about you, what they feel in terms of what you've done and what you've worked so hard for. And I think that's something to be recognized today because you're a rarity. You're a rarity. I mean, to see what you've accomplished and to realize that for young people out there today, that there are still people they can look at and say, wow, I wish I could do what you do. So in that department, you know you have our support. I mean, it's, I've seen you work very hard. I've had the opportunity to work with you. I've had the opportunity to be a patient of yours and know you from different facets and also know you as a friend. And so in that sense, you have my support. I think you will have the support of every member here. But I think the challenge is, you know, the hard work that's involved, and you've done that. I mean, you've done that to get to where you are. Not everybody does. You know, we have people in our community who don't hesitate to masquerade, particularly politically. You know, it's unfortunate, politicians, we get such a bad reputation sometimes because somehow if you go the political route, you're shortcutting. You're somehow not quite capable of accomplishing that you have to go that route to get in positions of power and authority. And we do have our people, as I say, masquerade quite, you know, they have no shame about it. They are like, look at me, I've arrived. Look at my title. But whether they're respected, whether they have the capability, whether they have the leadership, that's a big question. Most people know when you have it, and most people also know when you don't have it. Tearing down and destroying is easy. It's very easy to do that to somebody's character. It's very easy to take something others, you know, spent many years building and destroy it. We've seen that happen. That happens regularly around here. As a matter of fact, that's kind of normal. Much surprising to me, having been raised also in my Chamorro family and my own influences, I sometimes wonder why. But I'm going to ask the question because I think it needs to be asked. I don't think we could ignore the issues, and certainly we heard it. I'm not in the Guard, but I've heard the rumblings. I think we all have. That there's been a sense of disappointment because you have many that have worked very hard to get to where they are. And certainly in the field that you are in now, that you've worked for many years, you know, it takes a lot of time and effort to accomplish what you do. And also for the people that are under you, that you are going to be directing. And when we heard the rumblings, a lot of disappointment that somehow the politics seeped into the Guard. That instead of ensuring that we had leadership that was going to set the example and have the standard, that standard got lowered. We had many that were senior that had worked many years with the expectation that maybe they would have the opportunity to sit where you're sitting today. And they left. Just in disgust, maybe it's time to step aside because this is not the train that I want to be on. So I want to ask you, because this is not, I'm sure, the first time in your life you have been given this opportunity to actually pursue the position that you're here before us today. This has come to you before. So I'm going to ask you why now, that you're willing to accept this, and I'm also going to ask you, knowing, and I'm sure you know, I'm sure you feel it, I'm sure you've seen it, what are you going to do to rebuild the Guam National Guard? Because it has to be a well-organized, disciplined, respected organization in our community. And that has to come internally from the people that work with you, that are a part of your team. And that also has to come from the rest of this community to have that sense of confidence in who you are and what you do and what your team does. So I want to ask you, because I think that's a critical issue. I think everything else, hands down, you have what it takes. I don't have any question whatsoever about that. But I want to know what you're going to be able to do in this capacity, rebuild that sense of confidence of your people and also of this community. You know, so we have that sense of confidence, we have that sense of pride, we have that sense of peace, so we know you're doing what you need to do and that your people are also doing what they need to do. So how are you going to address that disgruntlement that has been there for the last few years, that sense that, wow, I've worked very hard and someone else gets to get in front of me and you know, it kind of takes away the shine a bit. So I'm going to ask you that question. What are you going to do to address that? Because I know it's going to take a lot of time and effort, but there's a need for it.
The first thing, though, Senator, is the fact that though these things that you talk about happen, and so life is not perfect. There's no human endeavor, there's no human institution or human entity that is perfect in any way. Anything that we have broken needs to be fixed. Anything that we're doing well, we need to do even better. I feel that the Guard, the military, should be based on on merit and nothing else. You get to go in front of the line because you deserve to be there. All things being equal, maybe we can have some subjective decisions made at that point. I wear I've worn many different hats, but to me, the hat that's most important is what she thinks about me. And so for my soldiers, that's the same as well. My staff, that's the same as well. They can come to me and know that they're going to get a fair shot at something. But it's not because you're a woman you get to go in the front of the line. It's not because you're a different race you get to the front of the line. You get there because you belong there. And so I think that's where it's going to start, and that we have that sense back. But I cannot correct any of the wrongs that were done in the past, but what we can do is set the future up so that we're going into the right direction. That's the fix-it in my priorities. And we're starting to do that by ensuring that our staff, we're looking at the career progression of our staff, and that we're going to be sending some of those that are our best soldiers out for broadening tours so they can compete nationally. As an example, the Deputy Commanding General for the United States Army Pacific is a position that I think that the Guam Guard needs to put a 2-star general in, because this is our AO. It's in looking at all these opportunities to ensure that our staff that are going to excel and want to excel are going to be able to flourish by just letting him do it. And so that's how I want to be able to start it. But I certainly, again, like I said before, I'm surrounded by the smartest men and women in the military. Our Guamanian soldiers and airmen shine when given a chance. We're going to give them that chance.
Well, and I definitely appreciate your response to that, because again, sometimes you wonder, and I do. I mean, we've been at this a long time. You know, I feel very much if you empower your people, they're going to excel. And it's always the hope that you're going to have the young up and coming, because we're not going to be here forever. We're not going to be in our respective capacities. That we will have some comfort level that those that are going to come after us are going to have that capability. You know, sometimes wisdom obviously takes time. It takes experience. It takes humility. So I know you will do well, and I'm happy that you're mindful with that, because we as a community want to have that sense. I mean, we have an expectation of what we want to see in our Guam Guard as well. And I think it's very important that your people know that they're going to have that opportunity, that if they're, and politics in particular is not a game of merit. The most popular people are not necessarily the most honest, caring, hardworking members in public life. You can project all kinds of images. It doesn't mean it's real. We know that. We've been on the other side of the curtain. But certainly what we expect in the work that you do and the work that your people do, you know, we want to know that working hard and that earning what you have matters. Because if it doesn't, what's the point? I mean, you can get all the pins and you can get all the certificates, but you know, if other people don't look at you and they don't respect you, what do you have? You don't really have much of anything. So I appreciate your answer. I look forward to the work you're going to do. I look forward to what you will continue to do. Mike Cruz, you are indeed exceptional. You set a good example for our community, and while we're all sitting here saying great things about you, I have to say it's well-deserved. You've come a long way, and you're doing so much for your community, and I think you're going to inspire and continue to inspire a lot of young people, because they need to have good role models to look forward to and know that, hey, you know, I can be that guy from Agate or that girl from Minarahan or Chalampago or whatever village you're from, and know that if you take the time, you make the effort, you work hard, you do your education, you become a person of your word, which I think is very important. I think that's critical. If you have nothing else than that, I think that's the most valuable thing you have, and you certainly are a man of your word. So I look forward to all that you're going to do, and very proud to have you as part of our community, and certainly proud that we've known you and had the opportunity to work with you, and wish you and the Guard continued success. With that, Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Senator Brown. Senator St. Augustine, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, General Cruz, we've known each other for at least 40 years. At least that. For most of the folks here, we were together in the Guard. You got my full support. You didn't even have to think about it. I've always supported you when you were in the medical detachment and as you moved up the ranks and everything you've done. Holy Toledo, everybody's speaking. I'm happy when they mentioned they were from the Air Force and the Navy, because at least they understood that the Army's in charge, and it's always been in charge. It's very simple, even though Sergeant Major Cruz is back there, he understands that. The Army is the oldest branch of service in the armed forces. But you know what, General? I hope only for the best, and you're right. There's going to be troops that are going to, they're sour grapes, they're jealous. They wish they were there. Well, then do your part. Go to the training, get educated, be ready to move up. Don't wait to be given a handout. And that's the rule I've always done when I was in the Guard, when I was running the schoolhouse. You want to move up, earn it. It's not free. It's not because, like you said, you're a female or because you're whatever race you want. Forget about that. Last thing it says is, Uncle Sam ain't released me yet. Soldier, get in line. And most of them have not been in the chow line longer than you and I. They got to remember that. Even Commander Sergeant Major back here, Leonin, knows that he hasn't been in the chow line as long as you and I have been. As a matter of fact, he's my neighbor. But you know, General Cruz, you have my full support. And I hope to hear more of all the issues that everyone brings up. Take care of the Guard. You know I'm in the government operation appropriation. If you need funds for Department of Military Affairs, we'll help you out. We'll do what we need to do. Because I know that you're going to lead the Guard in the direction it needs to go. And you're going to protect the people of Guam. And I'm happy you said that first. It's the people, not the island, it's the people first. Because without the people, you ain't got an island. Or you just got a piece of rock. That's an easy one. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator San Agustin. I always ask, when is it my turn to speak? They told me I'm the chairman, so I can speak whenever I want, but we let them all go first. Well, the first time I met you, I was with my dad. And I said, Dad, who's that guy? He said, that's Dr. Mike Cruz. He's from Agate. And through the years, I've learned so much about you. You've opened up my mind. You opened up my heart to service. Kind of like modeled my career, kind of like after yours. But you paved the way for guys like me, for many of us in the South. Look to great character and wisdom and honor. And so I've always looked up to you. And this is my first ever confirmation hearing. So it's such a great honor to have the this confirmation hearing for you. It's such a great honor for me. And by the way, I like Army Chow. And I'm sure you're going to do that and keep that all for our soldiers. And I know in my heart that you will lead with wisdom, honor, integrity, and compassion. I just have this feeling about that. I don't know why, but I do. And you have my undying, total support. And we'll do everything we can to get the rest of this House to get behind you. And with that, sir, I'd like to congratulate you for taking this on. And thank you so much for being here. And I guess with that, we'll wrap it up. So let me, I was going to use my Army voice to read the last part of this. Do you have anything else, or would you like to say anything else?
We are Guam. We are Guam's Guard, and we guard Guam.
Hua. If there's nobody else to give a testimony, today's committee is holding, today the committee is holding a public hearing for, oh, sorry, wrong one. With that being said, I'd like to thank everyone for attending this hearing. If there's no testimony here today, we will adjourn this portion of the public hearing for Dr. Michael Cruz, General, at 332. Please note, we will also continue to receive testimony via the mailroom at the Guam Legislature or through the email, my email, Senator Nicolas at guamlegislature.org. With that, this is adjourned. We'll take a a 5-minute recess to prepare for the next bill. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Love your kids, love your manuncles, and love your parks. Thank you. Hello, Hafaday. The committee is back from recess. We will now move on Bill 170-37 core. The time is 3:43. Bill number 170-37 COR, sponsor Dwayne T.D. Nicolas, Joe S. San Augustine, Tina Rose Munya Barnes, Amanda L. Shelton, William A. Parkinson, Roy A. B. Kanata, an act to add a new subsection 79607 to Article 6 of Chapter 79, Title 21, Guam Code Annotated, relative to authorizing the Independent Vietnam Veterans Association of Guam to use a portion of the Skinner Plaza to establish the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Monument honoring the 77 sons of Guam who made the ultimate sacrifice. I'm the author of the bill. I would like to acknowledge my colleagues here present, Vice Speaker Tina Rose Munya Barnes and Senator Joanne Brown. The bill comes to me today by the way of Mr. Beneventi of the the Independent Vietnam Veterans Association of Guam. I've made a commitment that whenever anybody comes to my office and proffers something or needs assistance, that I will do everything that I can to make that dream a reality. And so when Mr. Beneventi came up to the office and presented me this opportunity to introduce this legislation, I made a commitment to see and hopefully follow it through. And so we got some co-sponsors who came out to help support this, and this legislation doesn't cost the government any money because Mr. Beneventi and his group are going to fundraise and make every effort, and I also gave my support to it and help them in every way possible to try to realize this monument. It's something very dear to me, as also my uncle served in the Vietnam War, and you know he paid the ultimate sacrifice. But this monument doesn't only serve to honor the 77 who have fallen, but also to highlight and honor everyone, the men, the women who fought for our freedom in Vietnam. And so that's how this bill comes to us. And so with that, yes, and I'd like to also recognize the presence of Senator Kanata and Senator San Augustine for joining us. I'd like to thank my dear colleagues for being here this afternoon. We have here to testify Mr. Juan Beneventi and Ms. June Taitano and Joe San Augustine. Sir, please come up and be seated in the panel. Mr. Beneventi, sir, we'll go ahead and recognize you. Please state your name for the record and go ahead and continue, sir.
Buenos dias. I am Juan C. Beneventi, retired Master Sergeant, United States Army. To my left is June Taithano, and she's sitting next to me because I have a profound bilateral hearing loss. My right ear is totally non-functional. I am the president of the Independent Vietnam Veterans Association of Guam. The Independent Vietnam Veterans Association of Guam is a 501c nonprofit organization which consists of veterans, survivors of the Vietnam War, who returned home to Guam. The men in the organization raised our families, contributed to society, and continue to give back to the people of Guam and the community in various ways. Unfortunately, There were 77 Chamorros and Guamanians who never made it home to their families. The soldiers who did not make it in home alive fought alongside their countrymen and represented Guam in the war that was not in their making. Young and full of life, these men volunteered or were drafted into the U.S. Army Armed Forces. Many were not old enough to have a family. All they went to fight a war as patriots in support to the country. Most people who have not been in the midst of war or fought in combat have no idea about the atrocities, hardships, gut-wrenching scenes that soldiers experience. These men did not return home alive. They were killed in Vietnam, some blown up, some tortured, some shot, some were never found. They were the sons, brothers, uncles, husbands, fiancés, godfathers, nephews, and cousins. They were hopeful in returning to Guam to their loved ones. Instead, these men returned home in a box, a flag given to a close relative, and their names logged in a register. Those of us who survived Vietnam returned home. Some of us are physically and mentally injured. Some stayed in the military. All of us are impacted in the brutality and atrocities of war. 50 years later, veterans will remember the brothers who did not have a chance to live life as others. Their memories remain. Our goal is to build a Vietnam Veterans Memorial at PLAZA to honor the 77 KIA and the 6,000 others who served in that war in the Army, Navy, Marines, and Air Force. We have completed the engineering, design, and artistic rendition. The wall and latte will cost $30,000. The estimated cost for the bronze net artwork, 2 panels 3 feet high, 6 feet long, and a Vietnam map between the 2 panels, a listing of the 77 KIA, and a mission statement. Estimated cost $80,000 to $90,000. We began our fundraising efforts 18 months ago through car wash and lunch plates with good results. We are embarking on a memorial brick to honor World War II veterans, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Our goal is to sell 80 to 100 bricks at $600 per brick. 80 bricks alone will raise $48,000. Starting in January 2024 through November 2024, we will begin to sell raffle tickets for a new 24 pickup. Tickets will be $25 per ticket, and our goal is to sell 4,000 tickets for a gross profit of $1,000. We are optimistic that with your support and the support of veterans organizations and the Guam community, this memorial will be built in 2 to 3 years from today. We endeavor to succeed. Thank
you, Mr. Benavente. Sir, Mr. San Augustine, sir.
You know, Mr. Chairman and honorable senators, thank you for being here this afternoon. My name is Joe San Augustine. I'm the director for the Guam Office of Veterans Affairs. I am a retired Marine Master Gunnery Sergeant, and I'm here this afternoon to testify in support of this initiative that is being presented by Mr. Benavente. As the representative of the government, it is only smart that when we have veterans or individuals and groups that have decided to do something for the community in recognition of their sacrifices, in recognition of their service to their island and their country, it is only right that I support the initiative. There are several good things to this. One, I think it should have been from the beginning that such a monument should have been established in the capital of Agatna because of its significance. The one thing that I do want to put out there in respect is that I am aware that there is a master plan for the Agatna restoration. That I put back in your hands. My part is to just say I'm here and I support where the intent and the type of monument that's going to be built or placed at the Skinner Plaza. In saying that, this is a step closer to really recognizing the patriotic acts that our brothers, sisters, sons, mothers that have served our community, a step closer to be more recognized, acknowledging the sacrifices that they have put in service for the freedom of our nation. I have just came back from a directors conference in Brooklyn, and I'll tell you, the one thing good about traveling is that you want to bring home ideas. And when I say this is one step closer to recognizing and being more patriotic, as we always say we are. You know, when you're in North Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina, wherever you go, you got veterans there that volunteer to do things for you. Wherever you go, everybody that knows you're a veteran will say thank you for your service. And I'll give you an example. The conference was in Brooklyn. I had to fly off Newark, N-E-W-A-R-K, to Wilmington, North Carolina. In Newark, I was charged $35 per baggage just to fly to North Carolina. From North Carolina going back to Newark to fly to California, it was free because of the shirt. Oh, I see you're a veteran, your baggage are free. So I say this because we need to do more. We need to do more, and I applaud Mr. Beneventi for this initiative. Because as we probably know, there is, in fact, a memorial monument depicting the Vietnam veterans up in the 668 Coban in Manila. Where I come in to favor this bill is this particular monument is significant to where it's going to be built, at the heart of the island, which is Agatna. I am 63 years old, and I think Mr. Beneventi a little bit older than me. But, sir, I thank you for your initiative. I thank you for everything you do. And I will tell you that as a Marine, I'm behind you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Director, Mr. San Augustine. We'll go ahead and take questions. We'll go ahead and start with Madam Vice Speaker.
Mr. Chair, for giving me an opportunity to speak and comment about this bill. I want to note for the record that I am one of the co-sponsors. I'm the third co-sponsor behind the two veterans here who authored this bill. And I want to say, as a spouse of a veteran, as a mother of a veteran, as a grandmother of one who's being deployed right now, and as a sister-in-law to both my twin sister's husband and my brother's wife, I want to say that Guam continues to show the support for our freedoms that we live today, but more importantly, you as veterans who continue to step up to the plate, to volunteer and to do good. When I looked at this bill, Mr. Chair, and I affixed my signature on it, I said I was really proud that we're finally doing something for the world, for the Vietnam veterans here on Guam. And Mr. Chair, I'd be remiss if I didn't at least acknowledge, I think we have a veteran, a Vietnam veteran that's here, and a Purple Heart veteran that's here, so they'll want to thank them, and please, if we can give them a round of applause and say thank you for your service to the freedoms that we live today. I also want to note for the record, Mr. Chair, that we did receive the fiscal note from BBMR as signed by the director, Mr. Carlson, that says that this bill, 170-37 COR, be granted a waiver because of the public law that was as amended, and it cited the following reasons. And just hearing the testimony from Mr. Beneventi, knowing that these guys truly have a plan. You saw the rendition of the photo of what the monument will look like, but more importantly, that they're doing fundraising efforts. They've started, they've got money, and they're continuing to do a fundraiser. And let me tell you, they're fundraising so that they can have enough money and not ask the government to pay for it. Even if I believe in the heart that we owe this to our veterans, our Vietnam veterans, I think that the work that they're doing now should be applauded, and know that I support this 100%. So I don't have any other questions to ask. I know some folks may ask about where the actual site will be here, Lot 5 or Lot 6. And I know that based on, I think it's going to be more of the CPK site. Am I right? Is it going to be in that area? Okay, I see a nod that's saying yes. So, Mr. Chair, again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be a part of your co-sponsorship, and I'm really hoping that we can get this on for the next session agenda. I know it's coming up sooner in the next couple of weeks, so hopefully we can get the committee report. And as Mr. Cruz is holding up the panel, the second panel that's up, it shows the logistical points, and it's noted for everybody to see who's watching. And I just want to thank the veterans and their families for being here. I see all the cruises out there, so thank you very much for doing this. And again, stepping up to the plate and volunteering as the Vietnam Veterans Association, and literally wanting to put not just honor, but remembering the sacrifices that our people have made, who literally went to war for something that we didn't ask for, but to help in the freedoms that we have today. So undankulu na si Diyos masi, and I'm hoping that I can get the support to get it on this month's agenda. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Vice Speaker. We'll go ahead and Senator Roy Caneta, sir.
Thank you, Senator Nicolas. Certainly in full support of this monument. Should have been done since antes guantes. That's why we're here, to resolve the situation and get it done. So let's get it done and honor our veterans who paid the ultimate sacrifice, and those families that are still with us today, and make sure that they're recognized before any of them are no longer able to be present to recognize the ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Caneta. Senator Joanne Brown, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to comment on this bill. I did want to ask, I appreciate you letting us know the location and all the efforts that you're putting forth to construct this monument. But I also want to ensure that years into the future and generations that have yet to come will be able to still appreciate this monument, and also knowing that it's going to be maintained once it's built, because that's the biggest challenge we have, is taking care of things once we build them. And what plans are going to be put in place to maintain the monument once it's constructed? Has that been looked at and addressed?
The long-term maintenance was something that we considered quite a bit in the planning. And so that we look at some of the models that are already in place, like the one in Adelup where this woman and the little boy were escaping. And
Yes.
on the side blanket portion, there's the American airplanes coming in. When you look at that model, the foundation is strictly grass, so there's no maintenance really needed on that model. When you look at the model also at Adelup about that sailor that is facing the ocean, that's a very elaborate work. And I question also who's going to maintain it 10 years from today or 5 years from today. So in the construction of our monument, the maintenance issue is paramount to make sure that when the monument goes out, there's a minimum of maintenance required. The bronze medal or the bronze panel should be able to withstand the weather quite well. The lattice stone is going to be constructed in such a way that it will stand an earthquake or another Morwar. The engineer that designed the work assures us that it will stand. He's putting his signature on that document, that my work will stand against the weather as much as possible. So your question is who's going to maintain it, or what is the maintenance requirement? There's very little maintenance requirement once the structure is up. Now, if we have money, what I envision also is on the wall is to put granite in there, put panels of granite or to granite the panel, the wall. But that is contingent on funding. If we have the money, we can do that. In the meantime, we stick to the basic plan. But if we have excess money, it would be great to put black granite against the wall, all throughout that frontal part of the wall, similar to what we see in the National Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C.
Well, I certainly appreciate the consideration that you put into the design. I was asking, starts talking with Senator St. Augustine where the location is, because I also want to ensure that there's still open space in Skinner Plaza as well, because there's a lot of community activities that happen there. So I'm happy to hear of where the location is, of where the monument will be located. I mean, there's no one here on Guam that who's from here that wasn't touched by the Vietnam War. And my godfather was one of the last Chamorro sons to be killed in action in Vietnam. He was killed, and I try not to be emotional because I experienced his death as a child. And it's had lasting impact on me because he was killed in action one day before his 22nd birthday. And it had tremendous impact till this day on my family. I mean, we celebrated his 50th anniversary last year. And I think we recognize the importance of remembering them because many of them died very young and they never really had an opportunity to live their lives. And it's very hard for me to talk about this subject because it's very personal. So I really appreciate the efforts that you're putting forth. I mean, my dad served in Vietnam also. He was in the Navy, he was a Navy chief, and he served in the Marine Force. And we're happy that he came home. And we had many, 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 many years to be with him. But for all those that have lost a loved one, it's a life-impacting experience. You take it with you, we will take it with us to our graves because we remember the lost potential. And even though we know that, my godfather was on his third tour. Not too many people want to go back. He went back 3 times. And unfortunately, the 3rd time was his last time. I remember his conversation with my dad, whether he should go or not. But he decided to go. My dad advised him not to, but he did. And we remember him, we miss him, we miss all of those that lost. I mean, a member of our Mariano family was the first Chamorro son to be killed there in action. And as I mentioned earlier, there's nobody here who's here during that time that was not affected by the Vietnam War. And even those that served, they didn't come back the same. They left a part of who they were back there. And so I really appreciate your efforts. I don't mean to be emotional, but this is one subject. I can be tough on a lot of things. This is one subject I cannot talk about without emotion because it has had such life impact on me because I miss my godfather. He was a wonderful man. And I know many families here, we share that loss. Those Gold Star families, all these years later, we share that loss. We miss them. And I think this is a wonderful opportunity, a wonderful tribute, so that the younger ones, those that have never experienced what even those of us of our younger generation went through, the families that have had this loss, will learn from it, will appreciate it, will value peace over war, because war is such a destructive thing. And especially when you lose those you love, that those names that are there have families that are connected to them and families that miss them so dearly. So I really appreciate your efforts. I always try not to be emotional about this subject, to talk about it without shedding a tear, but it's almost impossible for me because, you know, when he died, he had a tremendous impact on our family. He was someone we loved very much, and he was an only child. Imagine that, an only child, to lose your only child. You know, those are things that we really feel that sense of loss even all these years later, 51 years later. As I mentioned, such a part of my memory as a child, his dying and being brought back. You know, I want to add this because it's just something I wanted to share. I remember I was in elementary school, and my parents came to school to get me. And I thought, that's really odd. Why are my mom and dad here? And my dad was in his uniform. And he goes, we have to go to Auntie Sally's house right now. And I didn't know why. You know, you watch in the movies those army officers that come knocking at your door. My dad wanted to get there before they did because he knew my aunt, which is my mom's older sister, was going to be told that her only son was killed in action. The sound of a mother, you don't forget that. The sound of a mother crying who's lost her only child. What a sacrifice. And I remember that. I remember that and replay that in my mind every time I think or have to talk about this subject. Probably you'll never see me this emotional again in this capacity. But this issue, you know, it touches my heart very closely. So I really appreciate all the efforts that you're doing because it's part of a healing process for all of us that have lost loved ones. And Vietnam is just one. I mean, we've had several others since that time. But thank you for all your efforts because it really makes a difference to our community. I think it's something that will help our community, as with the Gold Star Family Monument that was completed last year. It helps us heal. It helps us look forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much. Chairman recognizes Senator San Agustin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, for my colleagues, I met with John Beneventi several months ago. We were talking about this program for a while, and then at the same time, he was able to hook up with my Auntie June Titan and said, hey, they needed to have a meeting with me, and we were going through the budget. And I said, sure, we'll have a meeting. Then I found out they were going to do it over at Senator Nicolas' office. I said, great. He's the chairman. We'll let him lead the charge, and I'll back him 100%. And then when we met, you know, as we were discussing the bill that day, I know that John was surprised because I said, we're not leaving this office until we have a bill in a draft form, ready to hit the ground running. That's how we need to do business. And Senator Nicolas said he's committed to it. I said, then before we end this meeting, and it was only an hour and a half. The meeting was about an hour and a half only, right, Auntie June? An hour and a half. And John walked out with a draft bill. Then we introduced the bill. And you know what? as Senator Brown mentioned, she's got family that passed away, her godfather. My first cousin passed away. John Anthony Paris. He's in the list of 77. And I know the other two gentlemen from Dededu know this, the family. And it's ironic because the day he died, before he died, he came to Guam just for one of those short leave time, and he's supposed to head back to California. They rerouted in the air, and instead of getting to even Hawaii, they rerouted the plane and they went straight to Vietnam. He got to Vietnam in less than 7 days. My auntie was notified that he died. It was that quick. He was only on Guam for about 4 days. And that I'll never forget. And that's why whenever I'm invited up to Manila or Umatic, I go, because why? To recognize our fallen comrades. Because my cousin is on that list. And when I hear his name, and I hear the bell, I stand firm. It's about recognizing and acknowledging our fallen comrades. And with this bill, very simple, we talked about where it needs to be, so it's not crowded. And the beauty is centralized. A lot of foot traffic. Any event happening in Agana, people can visit it. I've even recommended maybe we'll put it over at the Plaza. But St. Juan Skinner Plaza, great. If you all remembered, I was the one that was pushing the Gold Star. We got that done because why? That was also, I have a cousin there that passed away. And when John Benedetti came up with this to centralize the Vietnam Memorial, boom, done. It does not in any way question the Manila Monument or the Umatic Monument. It's just bringing it to the heart of the island. And that's the beauty of it. And I stand in full support, and thank God he didn't need any money. He told me that. I don't need no money. I said, thank you. Thank you, John. We don't need no money. We're good with this. But we also committed. I think everyone that co-sponsored on that bill committed to buy a brick. To buy a brick. So that's the easy one. That's the easy one. Now is just to make sure that we try to get this bill on the floor for October session, so we can vote on it. Because I actually, when John says it's going to take 2-3 years, no, I don't believe John. John just says that as a projection. I expect in less than 14 months that should be done standing tall. That's just how John is. And I know that there are other folks out there in the community, companies that participate with the Gold Star. I've reached out to them. They want to participate also on this. So the cost could go down, and we can make sure we get that black granite on the backside and be one package deal, and we move on. So we all just stand there and salute to our comrades, and we move on from there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator San Agustin. It's a great honor to introduce this bill along with my colleagues, and we're certainly going to get some support for it. I really thank you and thank all the veterans. You know, I raised my children to be patriotic and love their country as well. I have a Marine NCO, an Army officer, and soon to be U.S. Air Force Airman. So I know the devotion to the country and the love and what you all represent here today. And I actually reached out, sir, to one of the contractors to get an estimate of how much this would cost. You have my commitment. I want to help see this through, make this a reality for all our Vietnam veterans who serve. I'd like to thank you all for coming out today. And with that, if there's no further testimony, if there's no one else to testify on the bill, I'd like to thank the panel, my dear colleagues, and we will continue to receive testimony for both the confirmation hearing and Bill 170-37. And if you want to submit testimony, kindly submit it to the mailroom at the Guam Legislature or through email at senatorsiniclas@guamlegislature.org. Thank you to everyone for attending the public hearing. And with no further testimony, the committee is now adjourned. Sizus Masi, it is now 4:17. Thank you very much. Sizus Masi, thank you. Hoa, hoa, hoa.